Well, good afternoon. My name's Charlie Wells, and welcome. Today, my journeys take me to sunny Southern California from my island home in Hawaii, and I've got a little bit of time left on my hands before I go back. So I figured I'd make another video for you, and today I'd like to talk to you about team leadership. I have a 14-year-old son at home, and I'm often reminded about team leadership from my efforts in leadership with him. Now, if you're the parent of a teenager, you know that they can be a little bit challenging sometimes when it comes to leading them. So, that's where you really get to kind of refine those leadership techniques is whether it be your teenagers at home or in my case, because I'm a Marine, with young Marines, sometimes they can be a real challenge to lead. So I was working with my son the other day, and as I looked at what we were doing, it reminded me of some very, very valuable leadership techniques that I'd like to pass along to you today. My son, he came to me one day and he said, "Dad, both of my sisters have jobs and they make money, but I don't have a way to make money. And everybody on the installation where I live, it's a military installation, and we actually have a lawn service that cuts the grass for everyone. So grass cutting was out of the question." So after thinking about it for a while, I said, "Son, I got a job for you. Now, you're not going to like it, and it's going to be dirty, and it's going to be hard work, but I think you can make a little bit of money at it." So I loaded him up, and we went down to the local barracks where all the single Marines live. I knew one thing about the young Marines in the barracks was that they didn't really do a lot of recycling. They didn't put their aluminum cans where they should be, and they don't put their plastic bottles where they should go. They just pitch them in the trash with everything else. And really, I think that's the deal with a lot of Americans today. I think we're a bit irresponsible with our environmental footprint, if you will. So I knew that there was an opportunity for Asher in that one facet of human nature. And I said, "Hey, son, I'm going to show you how to make some money." So I take him down to the barracks, and I flip the trash can lid open on the big dumpster over at the side where all the trash is. And we peer over into the dumpster, and lo and behold, there's all these cans of plastic bottles all over the bottom of the dumpster, in trash bags that Marines have taken out, you name it. So they're in there, but you got to dig them out. So we set about doing it, and we did it for about a week or a week and a half. And Asher was really excited at first, my son. And then one day he turns to me, because we're both out there working at it, because I help him, I go with him. And one day he turns to me and he says, "Daddy, this is gross work. This is dirty." I said, "Let me ask you something. Would you rather be dirty or broke?" He thought about it for a minute and he said, "I think I'd rather be dirty." And he turned right back to working. So it was right then that I realized that, a lot of the discussions that I have with him, they're leadership-based discussions, and I'm not only helping him make money, but I'm preparing him for the long term. I'm playing the deep game with my son. I'm teaching him things about leadership because one day that's a role that I want him to step into. So there are a couple of principles that really jumped out to me that I use with him that I also use with young Marines, and I'd like to go ahead and share those with you quickly. The first key to success in leading teams is simply this: find what motivates your team. With my son, he said that he'd rather be dirty than broke. So what motivated him was just making money. Now, it's usually not that simple with your team, because people don't typically work with an organization for a long period of time if all they're after is money. Usually when somebody finds an organization that they stick with, there's a reason for it, and it's usually not just monetary compensation. So with my son, that was it. And he realized that being dirty was okay as long as there was a purpose for him being dirty. So the first tip I'll offer is find what motivates your team and use that to drive them. Second, set the pace for your team. I get out there and work with my son. He and I are both digging through the dumpsters together. We're both putting cans and plastic bottles in bags together. When it's raining, we're out there together. When it's sunny, when it's hot, we're out there together. But we're always out there together. And when he's having a bad day, I'm there to motivate him, and I'm there to set the pace because I'm his leader. So be out there with your folks. Be out there with your folks, and I'll tell you, you can set the pace. Your folks on your teams will absolutely respond to your attitude. Which brings me to my next point. Hey, listen, every leader, I believe every leader can fall into a couple of different classes, and each one of those classes is represented in the old kids show Winnie the Pooh. I'll tell you the kind of leader you should be and the kind of leader you shouldn't be. You should be Tigger. You should not be Eeyore. Now, you've probably had a leader that's Eeyore. You remember Eeyore. He was the donkey that always walked around with his head hanging low, and he talked really sad and slow, and he was always negative. And then you had Tigger, right? Tigger was always excited to be there. Tigger always wanted to go, go, go. He was always ready to head on down the road and get into something new. So if you're a leader, hey, be the Tigger leader. Don't be the Eeyore leader. And if you're a Tigger, you will soon see that all your team members have tops that are made out of rubber and bottoms that are made out of springs. And they will be Tiggers right along with you. And that's the kind of team that gets stuff done. So be a Tigger. Now, the next thing I'll tell you is you need to build a team identity. I have a boss I had a boss that used to say you can't sink half a ship. And that's a brilliant metaphor. A ship as a team, you can't just sink half a ship. When the mission fails or when your team doesn't do the project, it's not just one or two of you that fail. The whole team failed. So you can't sink half a ship. Now, what I will offer is this. As a leader, when your team fails, you take the responsibility. That's your loss. That's not a team loss. That's your loss. But when the team wins, the team wins. You don't take credit for the team. The team for the win. You give the team credit for the win. But you always take the credit for the loss. But you can't sink half a ship, so build a team identity. A couple of ways to do that. Number one, it's with your presence. You've heard me say it before, but the best fertilizer for your garden is your footprints. Be there with folks. That's the best way to build a team identity. But second of all, hey, look at the way that you talk about things. Take I out of your vocabulary. Use we. Hey, today we are going to accomplish this. Hey, here are some of the goals that we've set for ourselves. And give your team a bit of ownership in setting goals when you can. When you can allow your team members to assist in goal setting, do so because it gives them more ownership. So build that team identity. And when you do, you'll see that you don't have to worry about half the ship sinking because the whole thing will be going right down the river. Next thing I'll offer is build team goals, and I mentioned that. Hey, help the team. Give the team some ownership in the goals that you set and in the deadlines you set. You'd be surprised at how hard people push when it's a goal that they've helped you to create. And the last thing I'll offer you is prepare your team members to assume greater roles of responsibility. Now, that can look like a couple of different things. That can look like you cross-training team members to fill one another's roles, or that can be you giving individual team members a chance to step up and lead projects or lead the team at different times. When you do that, you send a very clear message to your team members that you're invested in their future. And that's a big deal because people want to work for a guy or gal that care about them and care about their future with the company. So invest in your folks and send the clear message to them that not only are you willing to invest in them, but you think they have what it takes to one day move up. Because you'd be surprised at how many people don't have a lot of self-esteem on their own. But when you show some trust and confidence in them, that builds them up and that makes them a better worker. So I'll tell you, these were just some really quick things that I thought about today and I wanted to share with you. And hopefully if you're a team leader or if you're a teen leader, hopefully some of these things that I offered you today will help you to be a more effective leader. And hey, I look forward to comments and thanks for watching.